Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. It's time for you to get your house in order. We're going to cover what I mean by that. It may not be what you think. So stick around and we will get to it. Before we get started, I want to remind you of something that ends tonight at midnight. The company that I have partnered with, My Patriot Supply, they have an amazing clearance going on with certain select items in their warehouse. I will leave a link in the description below. If you are interested in the market for that kind of stuff, we're talking emergency food, water filtration, things like that. And they have a few items that are amazingly priced, really low. If you're interested in doing so, again, there'll be a link in the description and you can go over there and check out what they have to offer. I'm going to read something, or out of something, that I don't do on here that much, and I probably do it too few times, and maybe I should do it more, and it's out of this book. That's right, this book. I'm not going to preach at you, so those of you that don't like this book, you don't have to turn off of the video. I mean, you can if you want, but I'm not going to preach at you. There's just a scripture in here that I want to read to you and apply it to our lives today. It comes out of 2 Kings chapter 20, and it's the prophet Isaiah. Many of you, even if you don't follow the book, you've probably heard about this guy. And he's talking to Hezekiah, who was dying. And in the latter part of the verse, he says, he came to him and he said, "Thus said the Lord, set thy house in order, for thou shalt die and not live." To get your house in order. The man was sick and dying, and the Lord was telling him to get your house in order. Folks, I'm telling you today, we need to get our houses in order. We talk a lot about prepping on here. I mean, it is a prepping and homesteading channel, so we talk about food and supplies and all that kind of stuff. And that's all well and good. But there's a whole lot more in our lives and in our homes that we need to get in order because of this world that we are living in. While a lot of people today, as I'm filming this on New Year's Eve, will be thinking over and making plans for their New Year's resolution, that they're going to pledge to themselves and the world that they're going to change. And typically, if they're lucky, it might last till the end of January. Well, folks, you need to pledge to get your houses in order. The things that have happened over the past 12 to 18 months, and really things that's been going on for decades now leading up to this point, are like a freight train that's reached full steam. And I don't think there's really a whole lot stopping it. And it's not just food shortages or food supply shortages. It's not just a health crisis gone wild, or a election fraud debacle, whatever you want to call it, for those of you that are interested more into that. And it's not even just this great reset or all of the advanced technologies that are probably coming down the pike at us. It's not really just all about that, because in a lot of ways, I feel that those are mere symptoms to the greater problem that our civilization, our society, our nation, the people around us are facing. This is the real crisis. And this crisis is that we have forgotten and lost and destroyed the very moral fabric of who we are. A few days ago, I made the comparison, and I've done it before in the past, of comparing the United States to the Roman Empire. The other day, I was referring to the economic crisis and how ancient Rome debased their currency by removing it from the gold standard, basically. They once were using gold coins and was putting less and less gold in the coins until it was just regular pot metal that they were circulating around, and it led to the downfall of their economy. And I made the analogy that that's what we have done here in the United States in 1971, taking our currency off of the gold standard which has led to the downfall. We took it off of a gold standard and put it on a debt-based system, and eventually our economy and our dollar will collapse. It's just really has to. But there's more comparison between us and the ancient Roman Empire. The ancient Roman Empire, at its peak, spread across the entire known world and was known all over. And it was the most powerful and influential thing in existence at its time. And it came apart and collapsed and became nothing. And it wasn't because some of invading power that built its army stronger and better and came in and finally overtook the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire fell from the inside out. And they fell because what little moral basis that they had, and they were always a pagan society, but at least they had some level of morality. They completely walked away from that. And folks, that's what we've been doing in this nation. You need to get your house in order. You need to get your house in order because not only is there a possibility of us facing food crisis and ever-increasing health crisis and global New World Order takeover or financial crisis and economic collapse, not only will we be facing these things, but we are facing a collapse of our morality, and that is a huge crisis. The very moral fabric of what has made us a great nation is collapsing around us. We, as a people, all of us, have either turned a blind eye or have openly welcomed this repugnant and vile lifestyles that we see all around us. There is no right and wrong anymore. There is no good and bad. Morality is just relevant. It's whatever you want it to be anymore. These are things that I'm almost embarrassed to say because people might think that I really know what they are, but because I run this channel, I do try to stay on top of things. A popular singer called Cardi B, and a disgusting song that she came out with this year that we will call the WAP, was named #1 and most influential song of the year. And while if you can bear to listen to it, and I don't really recommend it, it's heralded as this great advancement for women, that it empowers women. And now there's videos all over of young mothers and even their children and young girls acting out the video and its vulgarity. And I mean, when I say vulgarity, I mean extreme vulgarity, acting it out. And in a normal society, we would look at that and say, this is awful. This is shameful. Something needs to be done about this. We are losing our way. But you know what's happening most of all? When these things are posted online, they're praised and heralded as strong, empowered women, and that we're teaching our young girls to be strong, empowered women by watching this filth. This past week, Argentina legalized abortion. And the aftermath and the celebration of that, thousands and thousands of young Argentinian women filled the streets celebrating this freedom and empowerment for young women by having the legal right now to abort their young children, their infant children. They celebrated to the point that it was filled with drugs and alcohol use openly in the streets, little to no clothing, and the most strange and contorting dances you've ever seen. It almost looked like something out of some strange, weird, satanic ritual, if you catch my drift. that these young women are doing out in the streets, celebrating that they can now legally abort their children. This is the world that we live in. Here in America, we embrace and we glorify and we celebrate the most repugnant and vile and vulgar sexual acts and sexualities that human history probably could ever come up with. And yet here in America, it's awesome to be that way. It's how we should teach our children to be, right? The things that are happening around us, the world that we now live in, is very different than what you grew up in. And it's in a complete different universe to what your grandparents grew up in, folks. And maybe you've sheltered yourselves from that. And I suspect a lot of my listeners do. That you shelter yourselves from that because you choose to live as moral and a godly life as possible. I know many of my listeners homeschool. They don't have TVs in their homes. They live out in rural areas. They live in areas where typically people are more moral and do go to things like churches more often. And because of that, we've purposely sheltered ourselves from what the rest of the world is doing. The sad fact is the vast majority now is accepting this. And not just accepting it, but they're glorifying it. Folks, it's time to get our houses in order. Because not only will you and your children and your spouses potentially have to deal with some level of a survival situation over the next few years where food may become scarce, where the health crisis could increase. There may be forced shots. There may be more progressive left agenda from the government. There may be more of a global push for a new world order. What you will also be continually faced with, you and your spouse and your children, is this increasing push and desire by the world to be more immoral. You need to get your houses in order. You and your spouse, you and your husband, you and your wife. You need to work on your relationships, and it needs to be as strong as it possibly can be, because it will be put to the test. I can guarantee it. As this world goes down this immoral path more and more, the family, the husband and the wife and the children, the family will become its greatest enemy. And so your family, you, your husband, your wife, your children, will all be put to the test. Get your house in order, folks. Open that book, dust it off the shelf, take it off the shelf and dust it off, and read it and study it and teach it to your children. Spend time with them, read to them, talk to them, teach them about what real morality is. Teach them history. Teach them how to be a real man and how to be a real woman. Not how to choose which gender you want to be. Get your houses in order, folks, because I firmly believe that while the things that we most likely will face over the next few years could be pretty devastating for a lot of people, the spiritual, psychological, and moral challenges that we will face will be far greater than any physical challenge that you and I may face over the next few years. So as 2020 is finally ending, and many are embracing 2021 as the new greatest thing, the roaring 20s are here. Let's party it up, because 2020 is over. I challenge you to get your houses in order, because a spiritual death is upon this nation, and it's been happening for years, but it's been building, And I think it's finally reached its boiling point. So don't just get your preps, food preps done. Don't just work on your first aid and your bullets and your survival skills and your bug out bags and your cool tactical gear. Get your homes in order also. And make a stand for righteousness in your home and teach it to your children and work on it with your spouse. Because I firmly believe everything that we have ever been taught that is right in our lifetime is all going to be laughed at, thrown away, and possibly even become illegal. This great reset, and I'm not talking about the capital Great Reset, I'm talking about this reset of just our culture, our civilization, of everything we know to be normal and true. I think it is happening, whether we like it or not. And that is what we really need to be getting ready for, folks. Get your house in order, folks. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.